All Excess with Danny Zalesko and Tim Richards.
So while we're on the subject of the Beatles, you recorded at Abbey Road.
Right.
So how did that come about? Other than the fact that you're a
It came
massive
about. I
Beatles
was
fan.
on tour. I was on tour in Europe in the summer of that year, which I guess now is about 9 years ago, 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And is it already that many years? Wow.
Oh,
No,
2010.
Maybe 8 years. I wish I had a copy here. Anyway, I was sitting in my hotel room in Prague at the Mandarin Oriental, and a block away was this big wall called the John Lennon Wall. It's enormous. It's beautiful.
I've been there. I know the wall.
So
It's great. It's beautiful.
Mandarin Oriental. So I had a few days off, and maybe 3 or 4 days off. The band went home because they all live in various countries within Europe. I was by myself. I was going through a divorce. I was pretty miserable, and I said, "What am I going to do? Other than go crazy in my room?" So I thought of like finding a studio and beginning this project that I had in the back of my mind. But I didn't know where to go. I was in Prague. So I said, where am I going to find a studio here? I knew of a couple in Germany. And then it just dawned on me in the room. I said, what? I wonder what Abbey Road is. Abbey Road still around? So I called a friend, a guitar player friend in London. And I asked him if he knew anything about Abbey Road. He said, yeah, they're still operating. They're doing mostly soundtracks and commercials. But if you want, I'll give them a ring and see what they have. I said, "Oh man, that would be like a kid going to Disney World for the first time."
Absolutely.
So he calls back. He goes, "Al, they have 1 day open." I said, "Grab it. Just grab it. I'm coming to London." So I called my oldest daughter, Oriana, and I called one of my good friends to act as, part producer on it. And I flew them over. And 1 day opened up 2 other days. So I had 3 days. I recorded 3 songs, and I felt like exactly that, like that thrill that we don't have as at this age anymore. We don't have that same thrill. We've been through it all. We're jaded, But that thrill that a kid has going to Disney World for the first time, I was like, wow. I was like that at Abbey Road. It was that amazing. The whole time I was there, I was in heaven. So it really took my attention off of the divorce. The sound was beyond anything I've ever heard. So I was really inspired. So I said to myself, after 3 songs, I have to finish it in New York. It's, London was out of control, expensive. Abbey Road was beyond anything, soundtracks can afford it. But, there's no artist recording records there anymore.
But by the way, just to interject, 3 days at Abbey Road. What was the tab?
It was outrageous. I don't remember because here's what happened.
You blocked it out of your mind. It was that high. You can't count that high.
No, I went to the best studio in New York. Also, I tried recording the rest of my studio, and it wasn't measuring up the sound, right? So I said I set the bar so high at Abbey Road. So I said, okay, before I go back to Abbey Road, I better take the time to arrange the rest of the pieces, like Penny Lane and, I Am the Walrus and all those other pieces. So I'm going to do something I've never done before because I was going through a divorce. So I wanted to get away. So I rented a house in a place I've always wanted to go, the Hamptons. Right. And this right before Labor Day, like nothing available, everything way expensive, but not available anyway, except for this little ad at the bottom of the paper for this nothing house. It was actually pretty good, but it wasn't one of the expensive ones. And the guy says, I don't normally rent out a house, but you sound like a nice guy. He said, but I got to tell you, my little girl's here. Hello.
Where is she?
Say hi to Dan.
Oh.
No?
Hi, Ava.
No, stop.
Where's the baby girl?
Anyway.
Oh, she knows me. Hi.
Your book.
Okay.
Would you mind drawing a picture of Daddy for me and giving it to me at the end of the broadcast?
Yeah. Here's our latest one of Daddy.
Oh, Al, you're such a kidder.
I wish I came out like that, but
Hey,
anyway.
he's awfully old, isn't he?
So I rent this house, the guy goes, let me finish though. So the guy goes, you got to be kind of cool. I don't normally rent my house, but you sound like a nice guy. He didn't know who I was. So he goes, because your next door neighbor is kind of a famous rock guy. I said, "What? Really?" I said, "Well," and I'm thinking John Bon Jovi. I'm thinking
Right.
Billy Joel,
maybe Billy Joel. That would be cool. I know Billy.
Roger.
Well, I didn't know Roger was out there. So when he said Paul McCartney, you know, a few tears came down because it was like, this is what I've always wanted to meet Paul. I mean that, and here I am in the middle of a Beatle tribute album at Abbey Road, and I'm going out there to arrange those songs, and he's right next door. That can't be.
Did you
This
go
is
knock?
winning the lottery.
Did you knock?
I didn't have to. You know, when I put in the GPS. I pulled up. As I'm pulling up, he's standing in the driveway right next to my driveway. So the entrance, like, you know, just like this. So he's in his driveway right at the end with his wife and some friends, probably saying goodbye. They were over the house or whatever. And I pull up like right next to him to go into my driveway. I go, this is too effing much. So that day, I did get to meet, you know, I did get to introduce myself in the whole 9 yards. I'm not sure if he got who I was or whatever, but you know, he's all.
Did you tell him what you're doing?
I told him what I was doing and everything. I think he was.
Did you ask him to come over?
I didn't ask him. No.
Why?
I'm
Balls, buddy, balls.
You know, hey, Paul, come over to the stranger guy's house. You know?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, stranger guy. Stranger guy's a 10. Okay, let me remind you, you're a 10. And if
true.
stranger guy, it's even better if he doesn't know who you are. And you go,
Danny, dude,
if you don't know my name, you must know Chick Corea. You
No,
must
no,
know
no,
Return to Forever. And I'm doing this album. You got to come and hear it.
I mentioned Barry Marshall, and I mentioned the fact that, you know, he started in the business with me, John, and
Right.
Paco, and I told him about. But I became this little boy again.
So you were
became
afraid.
a little kid again. You know, it was like that. You know, I wasn't Al Di Meola, the adult. I was like this little boy in awe.
The 9-year-old.
And he was very nice, by the way.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, nobody in the car with him, and he shook my hand, and he stopped. We were talking for a while, and you know, we talked a couple other times, but I wish I had said, you know, Paul, I'm this guy. Remember, you know, Al Di Meola. But it's better if somebody's with them and says, Paul, that's you know, the guitar. Then it's
but
like,
Al,
oh, thank God, you know.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of being like in Monaco, and I see a bunch of really nice shirts, and I go, I'll come back for those later. And you're there 4 days, and you never get back there.
Yeah,
and buy that.
I do.
So
I went back the next year.
But I mean but he wasn't there.
He was there.
No.
So now.
Did you give him a copy of the album?
No. Steph did.
Oh, that's great.
Steph.
Did he listen?
My wife was then my girlfriend, right? So I'm on the patio and I'm watching Paul go in and out of the driveway with he had a dark green Ford Bronco, and he also alternated between an old brown Rolls Royce. So I just saw several times going in and out. And Steph goes, Al, here's what you're going to do. You're going to write him a letter. You're going to write him a note. No letter, 2 pages, whatever. Stick it in the CD. Now we got the CD finished. Stick it in the CD. I'm going to take it next door. I said, why? You're going to go, why? You're going to go, why? You're going to knock on the door? He's pulling in the driveway right now. Give me the CD. So, you know, I already did the letter and everything. And she runs over there, and I'm looking at this girl going, I'm going to marry this girl.
Oh, that's what did
the
it.
Best.
That was so cool. I couldn't have done that myself. I would have been too nervous, you know, I'm a big fan, you know.
I'm really surprised that you're such a ballsy guy.
I can be ballsy, but that, you know, there's a couple people. It could be De Niro, it could be Paul McCartney, you know. But the night before, you see, she wasn't the big Beatles fan. My wife was the big Stones fan.
I hope she told Paul that.
Her. The night before was her birthday. We were in Manhattan, and I have a friend working in the studio. Said, Keith wants to meet you, Al. I said, oh my God, this could be a great surprise for Steph. So we go in the studio. She has no idea where we're going, who's in there. And there's Keith, the big smile. He had a glass of vodka in his hand, and she nearly fainted.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
And the first time I'm meeting Keith, and I'm like, wow, this is fucking great. Great. Even, friendly, arms around us, pictures. And in the actual record room, he had every one of his guitars.
Oh.
So,
oh my God,
he showed me all the guitars. Like this guitar, I used a Midnight Rambler. Here's my honky tonk guitar, the honky tonk Telly. And I said, oh, can I? Yeah, go ahead. Now I'm playing that. And I'm
Did you play with him?
I actually got a picture. No. I didn't play with him. That would have been cool. But just to meet him was, and then the
Hey,
next
Al,
call.
the next time you're around somebody that kind of spooks you, would you call me? Because because you're gonna put an earphone and we're gonna be able to communicate, and I'm gonna tell you what to do next.
Well, I still wasn't sure if he kind of got it was me. So my engineer was working in a studio. This is well after that. And Paul popped his head in. He said, hey, what music are you working on? He goes, I'm working on Al Di Meola's new record. He goes, Al Di Meola? Oh, I know Al Di Meola. Of course. Oh, yeah. But he didn't relate it back to the house, but he totally is aware of who I am.
oh, that's awesome.
I have.
And I said, what? He knows I shit.
Yeah, Al. Those. And look, you're not hurting for recognition or anything like that. It's a great story, and it's one you should cherish. I wish I could help you redo it. I mean, like if this was a movie we were doing right now, I would do the Wayne's World, and I would redo that scene for you.
You want to talk about Shy at 19? So I go in the studio with Chick. Who's in the next room?
I'm afraid.
John.
Who?
John.
No.
Lennon?
John.
You didn't meet him.
And I watched him record.
You didn't walk in.
The door opened. He's right there, right at the control booth. Right, it's at the record plant in New York City, 43rd Street. He opens the door several times. I'm in the hallway, so I'm waiting for that door to open. He's right there. And I went, holy shit. And in between takes, I would see him maybe 10, 20 times. And of course, I really did not have the balls to go in there. It's like I was lucky to be even with Chick at that time. But 19 is like, am I in a dream or something? But I remember playing in the game room with Julian, ping pong, like all the time.
That's amazing.
Years later, I met him.
And you're sitting there going, hey, kid.
He was 10 years old at the time.
Tell your dad I'm going to smoke his guitar player. Let me in there.
Right.
That's what I would have done.
It would have been a different story now. I mean, I would definitely have, introduced myself or somebody. And by the way, Jimmy Iovine.
Mr. Multi-Billion, yeah.
He was the guy that ran off to get his coffee.
That's right, yeah.
He had to do something for the 2 points he earned on that record.
Yeah, he was the T-boy, as they call it. So
yeah, he was like the assistant engineer, right? He
was even less than that. He was the guy that was the assistant to the assistant, and he would go out and get us coffee and tea. And
That's
I will
awesome.
never forget it.
All Access with Danny Zalesko and Tim Richards.